imagine if only half of the members of parliament would pick up an issue of corruption and follow it through and publish it on both sides of the house. So whatever anybody has done, whether it's in your party or some other party, so we can take the plunderers, the selfish, the greedy, and the imbeciles out of the system, we will have better governance. And then there's the presidency, the appointing authority. Now, interestingly, the ministers are no longer part of the legislature. And you know why? Because once you are appointed as a minister, you serve at the pleasure and direction of the president. That is not what an MP does. And that is why I think this whole idea of selecting your ministers from parliament is an issue. So people are dancing so they can catch the eye of the president so they can be made a minister. And once they're made a minister, they lose their ability to criticize any thievery in government. Show me any minister who has criticized thievery whilst their government was in power.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into that conversation with the king himself, Kwasi Kyei Darkwah, and he joins us this morning. He's a man of many things. He wears many hats, and you know, when he comes around, there's a lot of hard talk that we have. And he's a patriot as well. He joins me on the conversation. Memoache, thanks for joining us.
What you're saying.
Is that a porcupine on your finger this morning?
Asante kotoko ukuma pimwa apimbeba. That is
okay.
The Asante kingdom. Many peoples have come together to form one collective. And if you touch one, you touch all of them. I speak not of Asante Mai this morning. I speak of Ghana, my motherland. 6 major ethnic groups, plus their many subsets, were unified by someone who sought to lead a country called Ghana. And together we must stand as one, or we must fall individually like little skinny sticks of the broom.
The last time we had a conversation, there was a lot to chew on in terms of different dynamics in government, our governance structures, policy, and to some extent, the duplicity of some of our political leaders. But today we're going to have a conversation focused more on lies and greed, the politics of lies and greed, and what they are bringing to the fore. But every time you come, I do try to find out from you, between the last time and now, what are some of the things you've observed out there in respect of our motherland, Ghana?
There is so much hunger that people are selling their birthright for porridge like Esau and Jacob. There is so much desperation that young people who have the opportunity to educate themselves to gain skills and competencies will rather travel anywhere else and work as the lowliest laborers. There is so much pent-up anger, but so little courage for the wise amongst us to speak up. And there is so much arrogance in those we have elevated into positions of fleeting authority to serve us, that they thumb their noses at the public and don't give a hoot no matter what the people say. Every time taxes are introduced by any government, they introduce them for the betterment of the country. But if you're paying more taxes and you're receiving worse services, you must ask yourself, why am I paying these? Whether you're going to the hospital, whether you're going to buy an air ticket, whether you're going to buy yam in the market. Why have we put so many taxes on goods and services in this country, but we haven't improved service, especially from the public sector to the populace? It is very worrisome. Very, very worrisome. And then you talked about duplicity, so beautiful. There's a book I read a while ago, Diplomacy and Duplicity, and the lies that the people that we ask to represent us at home and abroad tell, not just for the purpose of guarding state, but for the purpose of enriching themselves. Really, really sad. And we have to think that we are citizens of a nation and we have given these people employment. Because the politician comes to seek employment just like the mortician or the electrician. But once you employ him, you must constantly look at what he is doing so that you hired him, you can also fire him. Individually, you may not be able to fire him, but collectively you can. And really, I want to call every Ghanaian to action. An educated, keenly interested, and well-informed citizenry abreast of community and national issues is crucial in holding leaders and politicians accountable for their words and actions. And I say leaders, and then I say politicians, because not all leaders are politicians, as you know, and not all politicians are leaders. It saddens me that you and I have to tell the young that our politicians lie a lot, some by commission and some by omission. What do we want to do about it?
What's the latest lie you've heard from the corridors of the powerful and the political? What's the latest one you've heard?
Too many, but at this point, taking any single one and stating it means giving their opponent an advantage because it's political season. So I will ask the viewers, publish the lies that you have heard from politicians. Put them on Joy News. Put them beneath this program as commentary. And let's start looking at it and saying, if people tell these lies for political advantage so they can get into power, should we maintain them if they don't also prosecute? Now, let me give you one of the oldest lies, rather. A dear friend of mine's father died, and before he died, he said he had a confession to make and he needed to say this because it's burning his heart. This man was a great artist and cartoonist named Ganata. And he said he had been threatened on the point of actual bodily harm. In fact, gross bodily harm, to make a cartoon presenting Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as somebody worshipping some gods called Kankai Nyame, to start with. It's either the nation is all so stupid or so gullible that we can believe that somebody who worships their God will call their own God a stinking God. So he made this cartoon. And that is how many Ghanaians started saying Kwame Nkrumah had a God called Kankai Nyame and was sacrificing people to him. But Ganata made this confession before he died, that he was threatened on point of gross bodily harm to make that cartoon. His son is alive. I spoke to his son just 2 weeks ago. And I said, do you know about this? He says, well, he knows about this from family, that his dad was threatened. So in the same way, there are people being threatened in public offices to do evil against the nation just so the people who have appointed them can benefit. But the lies are many. Let's look at this government, President Akufo-Addo. People lied about him. Some said he didn't even go to law school. Well, if you don't go to law school and you serve an apprenticeship, you can still practice law.
Back then, when that was still possible.
Back then, when that was still possible.
That is no longer the case.
Yes.
But back then, when it was applicable.
So when people say that, you see, the lie is subtle. They make it look like he has received no training at all and has practiced. So that, whoever said it, lied. In the same way, people said, former President Mahama had hotels in Dubai. 7 years on, where are the people who said those things? They lied. And they used it to gain some advantage. They are still enjoying those advantages. But who is calling them to be responsible for the lies they told? So the Ghanaian populace cannot just sit back whilst people come and lie to gain power. And after they gain power, they go silent. We need to get to a point where, like the Welsh government has decided to do now, they are working on an act that will make it such that any politician who lies, public servant in high office who lies, is banned from public service for life. In Ghana, being banned from public service for life is not enough, because if they have stolen enough through their unethical deals, through their nepotism and cronyism, if you ban them, they still go home and live well. We must look at the possibility of enacting something on our law books so that those who lie in high office, those who lie in positions of public authority, actually go to jail.
Would that not be stretching it? I don't know where, yes, you talk about this Welsh bit, I'm yet to read about it, but people could inadvertently lie. There could be people who would say something on some front and not necessarily mean to deceive people.
Now,
I mean, and even you would hear about the oddity of black lies and white lies and all of that. But wouldn't it be stretching it if
it is not
you were to say, oh, you have lied in public office and so you deserve jail? People lie everywhere every day.
The difference between the carpenter making one chair who lies is that he leaves nails to stick in the bums of everybody who sits on the chair. But the politician who lies takes away from an entire nation. Look, there are different professions. Like I said, there's the electrician, there's the mortician, there's the politician, there's the architect, there's the doctor, there's the nurse. People must choose the professions for which they have skills and competencies and also have the humanity to practice. Some people are intelligent, brilliant. They choose to play football. They don't choose to be an auditor. Because if you choose to be an auditor, you need to work in a situation where wherever you go, you ensure the control environment is as clean as the politics of Singapore. And if you can't do it, go into another profession. People are importers. People are drug dealers. People are TV producers. Choose the profession where you can practice. Don't go into the profession where you're going to harm people. Why is it that if a doctor does something egregious, the medical council can stop him from practicing as a doctor? But a politician does something egregious, he can continue. And even if he has stolen in a previous government, when the government he serves or the party he serves comes back, he gets yet another position again. There are some over 31 million people in Ghana. If one of you is a liar, which eventually leads to thievery, because all deceit leads to greater and worse things, and you know that this person has lied, just because they have come to say, I'm sorry, it's not enough. Accept their apology, but don't let them lead any public office again. Unless they are leading the desilting of gutters and taking out the dirt from, waterways, under the keen supervision of a no-nonsense brigadier.
Now, if you look at our law books, there's no such thing as suffering a jail term for lying. In fact, for every crime, there must be a commensurate punishment. And it must be stipulated in the law what exactly the crime is. There's nothing like that.
This is what I'm advocating for.
I agree. But I am saying, legislating on something like this, that if you are in political office and you lie, and some may say this is quite a stretch. If you look at a society like Japan, there are certain things, and I may add South Korea, unfortunately, some people have taken their own lives on the back of certain happenings. The reason being shame.
It's the culture.
Shame.
It's the culture.
Stigma.
It's the culture.
You can call it the culture. Is that not what we ought to tackle? Such that we create a society where if you do X, Y, Z, you have named and shamed yourself. It's not about going to jail or facing any punishment or something of the sort. Shouldn't we? Is that not what our focus should be? Rather than say we're going to legislate so that if you are found to have told a lie, how will we even determine that? It's a very gray area.
It will always be the wise proposing something for providence, and the nation discussing it and saying, if we want our politics to be clean, if we want our leadership to be up and doing, we must expect better character from them than the people they serve, because the people will take a cue from them. Can you imagine if the leaders in every office in Ghana were neat and tidy and ensured that no dirt was thrown around? How easy it would be for them to ensure that those who throw dirt around would be punished? But if they themselves are filthy and squalid, how are they going to be in a place where they can call other people to order? Let's think about this. We cannot expect our leadership to be worse than the public. And for the purpose of this discussion, I know some people
Leadership must set the example.
I know some people, the fish rots from the head. I know some people who accept that they are no good, who will start by saying, oh, but the leaders come from the people, so the leaders will be as bad as the people. Not true. The leaders come from the people, but the leaders must be the best elements of the people in skills and competencies, as well as in truth-telling and character. It's important because our difficulty in Ghana, the biggest difficulty in Ghana today is corruption. And all corruption starts with a lie, followed by nepotism, cronyism, before that, greed. But if we cannot tackle the lies and greed in our politics, nothing is going to change. People lie for personal benefit. There's so many reasons why people lie. People lie to cover themselves. People sometimes leave important stuff out. They won't tell you the full story. That itself too is a lie. So how long do we want to suffer this in Ghana? In your family, you're raising your children not to lie, to be true to themselves and to speak the truth about who they are and what they do. End of story. If you're raising your children as such, aren't you raising great leaders for the future? Because they are true to who they are and they are true and capable of speaking truth about what they do. But we have people lying and benefiting from the lies. And we are sitting there, still twiddling our thumbs, still tickling our armpits and laughing, and waiting for who to come and fix it. Now, I say, if this were to go to Parliament, anybody in Parliament that knows he's a liar will not vote for it. That's the fact. If you know you're a liar and you know that you have benefited from lies, there is no way you're going to vote for something like this.
In other words, you're admitting that this proposal of yours will never see the light of day.
Are you saying that most of the people in Parliament are liars? Because that's implicitly what you've just stated.
Well, I am saying that we know very well how politics is played in our part of the world.
No, I don't.
To say that,
I don't believe that all the people in Parliament are liars.
To say that those members of Parliament will pass such a legislation, which likely would indict them, is not going to happen.
If you know you are here to do good for the people of Ghana, you will enact laws that will help the people of Ghana. I cannot understand.
This will.
It will stop you. It will stop you, the leaders, from being lying individuals, from being thieves, and all the thievery starts with lies.
Let me tell you, have you thought through the legal arrangements that would be required to get something like this, through? I mean,
the whole world,
what do you think? I don't know what example
the whole world will
have.
come to this someday, because you see, you are standing in a place where you think the status quo is okay. Are you happy with the status quo?
I'm not saying the status quo is okay.
No, but you are accepting.
But I'm saying there are other ways of going about the status quo. Look at, I've mentioned Japan and South Korea. Look at a society like Norway.
We can always look at other societies for inspiration.
Look at how they've managed
We must
themselves.
look at ourselves.
You don't need a law like this, do you?
You do.
Really?
You do. Every nation is governed by laws.
So tell me, how
Every nation is governed by laws.
How do you mean? I mean, if
you cannot marry somebody who is under 18.
If you want this
that's
to
our
go
law.
forward, so let me ask you, what shape, what form do you think a law like this will take upon your reflection? How do you think a law like this will get legs to stand on its feet? What would be your thinking?
Essentially, what are laws for? Laws are there to safeguard the humans in whatever protectorate that those laws are made for. And also to let people understand that if you fall short of this law, you fall foul of this law, this is the punishment you get. So laws help people stay away from doing whatever the society considers egregious. So we look at our society. What is the worst problem in Ghana other than corruption? And all corruption starts with a lie. And we are sitting down just dancing around the issues every day. Political season. Watch the number of lies that are going to be told about each other. So, when was the last political season? It was Nanado and Mahama. Where are all the people who are showing us the records and the pictures and the documents, as Okudzeto Ablakwa is doing, of the hotels that Mahama bought? But they have reaped the benefit of those lies, and we are still watching them. Are they fit to lead? You are a liar.
They've gone through elections and people have voted for them.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Voted based on lies. That's what I'm talking about. So for the next election, let us let every politician know, if you tell a lie, you will be banned from all public service. Right? Now, some will say, oh, if I tell a lie that I got home at 8 when I actually got home at 7. I mean, anybody who makes that argument is just plain stupid. Egregious lies where you are using it to put another down for benefit for yourself or benefit for your cabal.
Yeah, but someone will say where you draw the line and
where we draw the line,
where we see between opacity and
where we draw the line
else.
will be in
what you may
Parliament.
see so clearly, someone may say, and that's
but that's why we have a Parliament.
KKD, wait. That's the bit, because when it comes to the law, that is why you can't test, for example, spiritual matters. Oh, someone is a witch.
This is not spiritual matters.
Relax. That's why I'm telling you that for the sake of...
You are extrapolating too far from the point.
Ambiguity, the least ambiguity in law will not stand. You know that.
We have to test this in Parliament. We need to stop the lies. Bryce Simmons speaks. I don't hear him lie. I see leadership in that young man from Presec Legon. There are people in Parliament who speak, who choose not to tell lies.
Can you name any of them? Have you seen any of our politicians that...
I'm not here to promote...
No, but as we speak about the other side, we might as well speak about those who are doing the right thing.
Can you go on and
setting an example?
And read what comments people have put there? Because I'm not here to give anybody any political advantage. My point is, CPP, NPP, NDC, GCPP, can we all come together and accept that to be a leader, you should not trade in lies? And if you trade in lies, we're not just going to forgive and forget. We will stop you from holding any public office henceforth. That will let people be conscientious and will let people be more humane and let people be more truthful. We cannot have a country where we accept that the leadership is full of liars. That's a problem.
Is that what you see now?
You have said if it goes to Parliament, they won't approve. After I said
the likelihood
yes,
of approval.
But you have said so. So don't ask me the question. You have answered the question.
No, but the leadership is not just Parliament. I'm asking
No.
When
Everywhere.
You look at the swathes of our leadership.
Do you expect the judiciary to have liars amongst them? Do you have the presidency to be staffed by liars? In fact, the fourth estate as well. Because sometimes people with a little more money than those who are working in the fourth estate use them as their tools to lie about people seeking to lead the nation. So media people also tell some political lies. So let's start somewhere. The fish rots from the head. Let's start from the very top and gradually come down.
Where the very top is what?
The very top is the presidency.
Okay.
From there, we're going to judiciary and legislature. Why should you be there, protected by the public purse, giving you all the perks you need, and at certain levels of being a judge, you go home on pension with your highest ever salary and still lie? Why are you lying? Why do people lie? Now, if we want to go to why people lie, then it becomes even clearer why we must ensure that people do not get into a position where if we know they are liars, we let them stay there. Why? Our big problem in Ghana is corruption. Look, at the time when we said we don't have money for the renal unit of Kolebu, somebody was signing, ordering for an emergency check to be paid to the president's daughter or the person with whom the president's daughter exchanges bodily fluids to go and service ambulances, let's stay with the lie.
Hold there. It wasn't for the president's daughter, and we don't know whether she exchanges It wasn't for the president's
How do you have a
daughter.
child with somebody without exchange of bodily
And
fluids?
we don't know whether
Are you
currently...
an MPP communicator
whether
now?
currently
So my point-
exchanges bodily fluids
But
with
listen-
that
but listen to
person.
me.
That is out of this context.
But listen to me. So at the time when you don't have money for the renal unit, what lie caused government to say people may die, but this payment is so important that we must make this payment?
That we can look at.
What lie caused that? Because all these things, everything we do is based on narratives. And if the narrative is a narrative of untruth, then we are not headed for peace and prosperity.
Right.
The lies in Ghana must not be about the lies of the foot soldier. It must be the lies of those in leadership. For if those in leadership can be truthful, they can check their foot soldiers.
All right. I want us to talk about greed, but basically then what you're saying is lying through one's teeth, pathological lying, especially by those in leadership, should be front and center conversation if we want to deal
for
with
the entire nation.
If we want to deal with greed, corruption, and
Of
all
course.
its concomitant
Of course.
effects. But let's talk about greed itself. I mean, just this morning in one of the papers, unfortunately, I don't have the newspaper here, but it was talking about the man you mentioned, Bright Simmons. I've followed his posts on many things, and he talks about, is it the RGGR or something of the sort, the Royal Gold, the new gold refinery that we have. And the fact that for him, he feels it is just another backdoor route for the Ejapa deal, if you remember what that was. Let's talk about greed in governance. Some will say that everywhere you go, well, there may be some pilfering here and there depending on what society you are in. And perhaps the 11th commandment, don't get caught. But in our jurisdiction, some feel this has been taken to levels unparalleled and seen before and harnessed and bridled. How do we tackle greed?
We tackle greed by starting with the liars. You see, you talk about Ijapa. If you've read what Ijapa was proposing and how we're going to hold all our mineral resources in something where we can use it to go and borrow for Ghana, the narrative itself is one of falsehood. And that is where all the problems begin. The problems begin with a lie to an electorate that is partly illiterate or partly unconcerned, or an electorate that is wise and very well educated, but is part of those plundering, so will not speak, or an electorate that is so hopeless, they've been bludgeoned into misery, so they don't even have the energy to speak because they are focusing on getting a little money to buy their food or their medicine. As one man I gave money the other day said, gave him money to go get himself some food. He says, "Rah, I can't even be to Idru." And I said, "He says, me with diabetes, me did be a me fedru. And to the beer, I have to choose between buying food or medicine." The truth is, some people in leadership are honest and dignified, but others are liars and must be kicked out of serving in any public office. How do we start it? We can't just sit there and pretend that all is kosher. How do we start it? See, one elder statesman wrote to me and he says, "Kwasi, thank you for the work you're doing. Sometimes you get very angry. Be careful. It might give you high blood pressure." And I said, those who love hurt the more. If you love the country you're from, if you love this country, Ghana, and you see anybody harming the country, it will disturb you. And that's why I have great respect for Bright Simmons. Not only him, there are so many others who are writing and speaking up for Ghana in civil society and so many other, groups and even journalists too. But we need to speak, we need to let lying, greed, corruption be front and center of the agenda setting of the media in Ghana for at least the next 3 months, to sensitize every citizen that when you are appointed a leader, lying is a no-no. And if you're caught lying, you're banned from public office for the rest of your life.
Okay, so we
Why
have to conclude on the matter of greed, but as you keep on talking about lies, you know what just came to mind? The president in recent times at that forum talking about misinformation, disinformation, essentially lies. I don't know whether you followed that conversation, because he even pointed to the media and others, misinformation and disinformation. But we see the political actors do it perhaps more than any other.
See, if I were to list names, I would have plenty. But like I said, today I am not playing to any political party's benefit. Let us look at every lie every politician has told. And let us look at the possibility of ensuring that they cannot hold any public office ever again. So in the Kufuor era, somebody who was at the PPA doing egregious harm to Ghana, Nana Addo becomes president, and Nana Addo appoints him. Why? So in the Mahama era, some people, maybe Abu Kapele did wrong and went to jail. So if somebody in Mahama's tradition comes, Abu Kapele will be appointed again? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Let us assume that only 10% of Ghanaians have any wisdom. That will be more than 3 million people. Out of 3 million people, you cannot find replacements for the people among you who are liars and thieves and nepotistic. What the Welsh government is talking about is a necessity for all nations. Interestingly, I discussed it with an elder statesman who told me that, Kwasi, when I was young and used to work in the mines before coming to lead those mines, if somebody called your father a dealer, it was so shameful. If you went to school, no matter how much money you had, you hid your face in the sand. We're getting to the point where we reward liars and thieves. We're getting to the point where we praise liars and thieves. We're getting to the point where we cannot tell how people made their income and their property.
So that's where we have to be looking.
Let's look at the lies. It is the lie. All these come down to the lie. All corruption comes down to the lie. All greed comes down to the lie. Because all you need to do is to find a narrative that will get the population comatose. So the population is asleep. They believe you. They trust you. Then you lie to them and you get away with murder. So you say, oh, we're doing something to help the people of Ghana. But behind it, there's the lie of your own people that are milking the country dry. We need to find a way to ensure liars are not in our presidency, in our legislature, in our judiciary, and then gradually in our media. Very important.
What would be your parting words for us, especially as you are addressing, I want to believe, the liars and thieves? What would be your message to them and to the Ghanaians who are watching you this morning, and maybe people from different jurisdictions, as often happens? Final words.
Look at the politician you want to vote for. And know that politicians may lie or engage in deceptive behavior for various reasons, including self-interest, to maintain power, gain political advantage, or protect their turf or reputation if they have any at all. And then strategic communication to achieve a desired outcome, cunningly and deceitfully shape public opinion or influence decision making. For fear and insecurity, to avoid accountability and criticism. For partisan politics, to advance their party's agenda, even if it means misrepresenting facts to harm our motherland Ghana. For lack of accountability, believing they can avoid consequences or scrutiny. Look at every person you want to vote for, no matter what party colors they wear. For if you only vote based on the party you belong to, you are still in a state of imbecility. Let us look for people who are honest, who are truthful, who are competent, and who are courageous to serve in all our public offices, and Ghana will be better for us all.
Before you go, though, an interesting thought that came to my mind. As we talk about lies and all that, I mean, some people would say that back then, if you swore by a certain lesser god or something, you knew that if you did the wrong thing, it would, strike you down. Should we also be targeting our churches, our mosques, where the adherents of traditional African religion go to? Should we be targeting those? Isn't that a failure from there as well?
No, we have to start somewhere. I listened to a sermon recently where a pastor was preaching and he used wise in place of shrewd. And I sat quietly, and then I showed the wise and shrewd definitions to a lady who was sat next to me. And she says, I think he's talking about shrewdness, not wisdom. They also may make mistakes. They are human. All humans may err. But the lies that you repeat over and over again are consciously, maliciously told lies for personal advantage. Now, in a book by American political scientist and international relations scholar,
and we have to go.
John Joseph
that final point.
Mearsheimer, he says, why leaders lie, the truth about lying in international politics. And he concluded that it is easier for leaders to lie to their own people because there is usually a good deal of trust between them. He suggests that most political lies fall into one of 5 categories: interstate lies, fear-mongering, strategic cover-up, national myths, and liberal lies. So every citizen of Ghana, whosoever you love, whosoever you hate, before you trust, please verify. Let the lies stop. If not, this country is going down. End of story.
Well, that's a famous quote right there. Trust, but verify. And the man himself, KKD, the king, has joined us one more time. Kwasi Kyei Darkwah, for this conversation on politics of lies and greed, as he puts it. Yadase.
Actually, I'm going to a dance. I'm going to spend a week with my dad. You know, from time to time, I go and sit with him and listen to his stories, because I don't want to be one of those people who fly to Ghana only to have a funeral when a relative dies. Right. Whilst they are alive, sit with them, learn from them, celebrate them, and honor them.
Positive step, most definitely. Thank you so much for passing through. We'll be right back on the AM show with a lot more. But let me tell you a bit about Dan's World Services. If you're stressed out about all your cleaning needs, worry no more. Dan's World Services is your one-stop shop that meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning services, event cleaning, and waste management, as well as carpet and sofa cleaning as well. Whether you're at home or at work, we understand and know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. And we've got great news for you. Dan's World Environmental and Facility Management Services has got you completely covered. Guess what? We excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. I'm sure your curiosity has been piqued. Where do you find us? Excel House, opposite the Regimanuel Estate, Nungwa Barrier, or you can reach us on 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services, beyond expectation. Well, when we return after the break, we'll take you beyond your expectations. Stay with us.